First, let me just say how much of an asshole I felt when I did my The Witches 2020 trailer reaction video, because I mispronounced Angelica Houston's last name so many times in that video. And growing up, I thought her name was Angelica Houston. It is, in fact, Angelica Houston. What tripped me up was the spelling of the name. When I was typing it out, I was like, oh, there's no O in this. It's spelled Huston. So I was like, oh my gosh, have I been mispronouncing her name my whole life? And I didn't double, triple check it and just started pronouncing it Huston. Oh, I cringed so bad at that video, but honestly, I didn't have time to redo it, so I just left it up. And I put a little disclaimer in the description, and I made like a comment on my own video, like saying as much, that I just felt like an idiot, but it happens. So I just wanted to, off the bat, get that out of the way. Angelica Houston. So, we're talking about the 1990 movie today. I was going to do both a review on the original movie and the remake. However, honestly, as I said in the trailer reaction video, I have no desire to watch it. I wanted to watch it so badly just to compare and contrast, but there's too much that I really actually want to see and videos that I want to do that I'm balancing this hobby with taking care of my kid full time. I don't have time to make videos about things that I don't genuinely want to see, that I'm not excited to watch and review. So you're not going to be getting a review of the remake, but we're here talking about the 1990 version, the only version that really needs to be talked about. So, in the opening credits of this movie, you see that I knew that Jim Henson was involved with like the special effects, but they had a production company that produced or co-produced this movie. So it opens on a town in Norway with a grandmother telling her son about witches, how they're all in disguise, wanting to kill children, how she lost her finger searching for the Grand High Witch. When her grandmother was a child, her neighbor was taken by a witch, but not just taken, put inside of a painting in front of her family to grow old. There was a painting in her family's house, and one day after she went missing, her dad noticed that there was a figure in his painting that looked just like his daughter that he'd never seen before, and she would move about the painting and she would get older and older until one day she disappeared from the painting. A couple things that the grandma tells Luke. Luke is her grandson. Don't remember what her name is. One thing you're going to realize is I'm bad about names. And if it doesn't seem important to me, I'll just refer him to by the grandma, basically. She says, you can tell, witches are disguised, but there are some telltale signs if someone is a witch. One of which being purple tinted eyes. Second one being square toes. Pretty early on, Luke's parents go out for the night and leave Luke with his grandma, but the police come to the house early the next morning and inform the grandmother that his parents have died, and so she is left to take care of Luke. He starts school and one day is up playing in his treehouse in his grandmother's yard, and he's approached by a strange woman who we come to realize is a witch, and she tries to lure him out with promise of snakes and chocolate bars. But so I did see this movie when I was a kid, but I only saw bits and pieces. I feel like I only ever saw the dinner scene, and I didn't really know what it was. Because this came out in 1990, so I would have been 4 when this came out, and I don't remember. I probably didn't see it for some years until some years later when it was on TV and just saw bits and pieces of it. So honestly, I had not seen it all the way through from start to finish until several months ago. If I'd seen that part of the movie when I was a kid, when the witch was trying to lure him out of the treehouse, that would have been genuinely scary to me. It was even creepy as an adult. They decide that they're going to go to a hotel by the ocean. The same hotel when they're there is holding a convention for the witches. While at the hotel, Luke's grandma and the Grand High Witch run into each other and take notice of one another as if they've seen each other before. Luke decides to take his 2 mice that he's brought to the hotel to go and play in an empty ballroom that will soon be full of all of these witches. So when they come in, he goes to hide, and they commence their meeting, and he is listening to all of it. This is where you really first see Jim Henson's handiwork, when all the witches take off their disguises. Jim Henson was pretty iconic in the 90s. You knew a Jim Henson movie when you saw it. So his practical effects are so good and so grotesque. I think, didn't he also do The Dark Crystal? I remember that movie as a kid. My parents had the VHS. And I never liked it, but I was like, I oddly still wanted to watch it, but like also didn't, but I did. I need to go back. I need to watch, is it on Netflix? I think that there's a new Dark Crystal movie, so I don't know if that one's on Netflix or they're both on Netflix, but I should actually, that's a really good video idea. Let me know if you'd want to see me do a review of The Dark Crystal, because I haven't seen that since I was a kid, and I should watch it as an adult just to see if I still have the same feelings about it. So right after they take off their disguises, one witch kind of backtalks the Grand High Witch, or she like questions something that the Grand High Witch says, and she gets blowed up. The Grand High Witch tells all the other witches to quit their jobs because they're going to open sweet shops that sell sweets dosed with her magical potion that turns all the children into mice within seconds. They test this out on Bruno because, bless him, Bruno will not turn down food. He comes in and he's walking up to the stage where the Grand High Witch is. And she does this weird writhing thing that's kind of unnerving. I cringe every time I see that part. And so he does turn into a mouse. It's a crazy scene. But he turns into a mouse. And after that, all the witches start to exit the ballroom, but one smells Luke. And he makes a run for it, and they chase him out of the hotel. As Luke is hiding in the dunes on the beach, Grand High Witch sees him and also notices a baby in a stroller sitting next to its mother on a bench. Or, the stroller is next to the bench that the mother is sitting on. And she straight up pushes that stroller down the hill, and Luke is able to save it. But they do eventually catch up to him and give him the potion, and he turns into a mouse too. He finds Bruno, and they make their way up to his room, to his grandmother, and is able to get her attention and show her that he's now a mouse. And bless her, she's the best, most supporting grandmother. Like, we would all want a grandmother like her. They plan to get the potion from the Grand High Witch's room so that they can then use that against the witches and poison their dinners to turn them all into mice. Their room is above the Grand High Witch's conveniently, like directly above hers. And she dangles Luke down on her yarn to get Luke into the Grand High Witch's room. He has to dodge her pet cat, her familiar. But he does get the potion eventually. He makes his way back up to his grandma's room. We see that Bruno's dad has the hots for the Grand High Witch, and his wife just stands behind him, like, scowling. I tell you what, if I saw my husband up some woman's ass, someone's gonna be crying, and it's not gonna be me. I would not stand by. So before Bruno and Luke jump into Luke's grandma's purse to go downstairs to find Bruno's parents, Bruno is just eating on some grapes or something. He is my spirit animal. Bruno gives zero fucks about being a mouse. He just wants to eat. Like, if there's food there, he doesn't care what form he's in. He's just there for the food. And honestly, on some level, that spoke to me. So when Luke's grandmother comes into Bruno's parents and she's like, I know where Bruno is. Bruno's in my purse. He's had an accident. His parents are like, what? Like, just what? And then she opens her purse to show these mice, and Bruno's eating, of course, and he's just like, it's me, but like, they don't hear him and they freak out. And she runs away because they're like, no, you're crazy, get out of here. But they have no sense of urgency to go find their son, because we cut to them later eating dinner, just like, have no clue. Their son's been missing for hours, and they're just like, and some crazy lady said that he's been turned into a mouse in her purse, and you have no concern, no sense of urgency to go find your kid. Why is it that whether it's a horror movie, whatever kind of movie it is, the parents have no idea what's going on? They always doubt any kind of crazy. Listen, if my daughter came up to me with like, there is a witch and she's trying to eat me, I'd be like, where's she at? I want to see. I would believe everything. I would be like, we're not trying to go out like that. There's a nosy maid in this movie that is having some affair with the hotel manager. She's in the Grand High Witch's room, like doing turn down service and going through all of her stuff, and finds this potion that she thinks is a perfume, and she dabs it on her, and where she dabs it, she gets mouse fur. And the hotel manager's like nuzzling her neck and then sees this fur and is repulsed and just like walks away. And she's like, what? That was pretty funny. You also notice that the whole hotel has been infiltrated by witches. From housekeeping to the kitchen, there's a chef or a cook that is also a witch. Luke decides, he sees that all the witches are going to be having soup, so he decides to put the potion in the soup. When he finds his way back to the table to his grandmother, he tells her, and she notices that Bruno's parents have insisted on having the soup even though it was strictly for the witches. The dad is this like rich asshole that thinks that he deserves everything that he wants and insists. And so she goes over and pours out the soup, and they finally see that Bruno has indeed turned into a mouse. And they freak out and they cry. The dad kind of seems like less repulsed, but his mom is like is devastated that her son's a mouse. After that, all the witches finally start turning into mice. It's chaos. It's grotesque. They're spewing green stuff and just like turning into these giant mice. It is so disgusting. It takes the Grand High Witch a minute. She doesn't turn into a mouse as quickly as some of the others, but she does eventually turn into a mouse. And the grandma gets her caught under a glass jug and signals for the hotel manager to come and take care of her, because he's got a big meat cleaver in his hand and he gives her a little chop, and green stuff spews everywhere. Luke has the idea, and I don't know how he does this, but he somehow manages to get the Grand High Witch's suitcase sent to his house, and it's full of money and an address book with the names of all the American witches. So they plan on going to America to possibly have him change back, like get one of these witches to change him back to a boy, but also to prevent them from hurting other kids. So at the end, I think this is the witch who gets mad at the Grand High Witch because the Grand High Witch won't let her have dinner and sends her up to her room. And then she's like, I quit, and is mad at the Grand High Witch. But then I think, what I can only guess, that she's just thankful that she didn't wind up going to dinner and get turning into a witch. And then she goes out of the kindness of her heart, even though witches hate kids, she goes out of the kindness of her heart to Luke's house and turn him back into a boy. The ending didn't make any sense. I don't really know. I didn't read the book, so maybe I think actually this movie was controversial because it veered away from certain aspects of the book. I think the ending was different than what was in the book, so I think that's not how the book ended anyway. But that's the end of this movie. Let me know if you saw this when you were a kid and if you plan on seeing the remake. And let me know if this is your favorite Angelica Houston movie, or what is your favorite Angelica Houston movie. She's led a pretty interesting life. I want to kind of start also branching out and doing videos about like just celebrity lives. I kind of had the idea because there was this podcast I used to listen to called The Last Ovation. She was pretty consistently putting out episodes, and then she stopped for some reason. She might have had some issues in her personal life that prevented her. But it was called The Last Ovation because she would do episodes about dead celebrities, and I thought that was a great idea. So I want to do videos like that, but even just on legendary, like living legends. Movie stars that are still alive or dead, whatever. Anybody that's interesting that I think would make good videos. So let me know if you'd like to see that too. But that is it. And like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in my next video.